Terraria is the type of game where you don't always know what to expect. This can be in the form of enemies, items, structures, but in the case of this video, biomes, specifically the jungle biome, I've noticed that out of most of the biomes in this game, they have certain little aspects of them that make them unique and tell a piece in the larger part of the story, obviously. The themes of biomes like the dungeon, crimson, corruption, or hollow seem to be more direct in how the player can understand the consequences of being in those biomes. Because wouldn't think, well, I guess if you were in Australia, it'd kind of be a pain. The dungeon is a threatening constant barrage of enemies and traps, but rewards you with great loot, while the corruption and crimson have a demon altars, which progresses the game's sort of leveling up system, and then you fight either of one of the two early pre-hard mode bosses in Terraria's gameplay. And the corruption and crimson are also evil, so they're very threatening looking, so you realize, yeah, this is a dangerous place. The hollow is constantly referenced and shown in Terraria's lore, even though it is not revealed until hard mode. It plays a vital role in early hard mode progression, with fighting the mechanical bosses, even though you don't actually fight the mechanical bosses in those biomes, but you get the hollowed bars, which have the hollowed theme to them. And getting the hollowed bars, is hard because they kick your ass, and there's magical enemies in the hollowed that are also a pain in the ass. But when it comes to game's progression, you go back to the jungle biome on more than one occasion. In fact, probably a dozen occasions if you're not counting all the times that you mine the Chlorophyte ore, with much more to it than I've just mentioned as well. I will be reviewing important parts of the game's progression, but not all of them. I won't be reviewing Plantera or the Queen Bee in this video because I'm specifically also reviewing the game's lore. But hear me out on this. If this video reaches 100 likes, I will do a part 2 of reviewing this biome, and I will talk about those bosses, and I will talk about other things I don't talk about in this video. But that's only an if, so make sure this video gets to 100 likes. I think the best place we should start is pre-hard mode. I will be reviewing some of the weapons, pre-hard mode enemies and creatures, and hard mode ones as well, and also the lore and information, as you can see by the title of this video, and also Chlorophyte and the jungle temple. Even very early on in the game, you can actually just head straight to the jungle and get yourself a set of jungle armor. If you are a magic user, this will most definitely come in handy. It has a plus 80 mana capacity, which is quite a lot, plus 6 magic damage, and minus 16 magic usage, so you get a discount, yay! So you can use more magic and for longer. The jungle weapons are also pretty strong for pre-hard mode as well. The Blade of Grass is one of the strongest pre-hard mode weapons that has a 1 in 4 chance to poison your enemies. And the newer versions of the game, the Blade of Grass is actually much larger than it is on the 3DS, but also does more damage on this version of the game as well. It's interesting how over the years Terraria has made little tweaks and changes to the features that are not really that noticeable, but they've kind of grabbed my attention just seeing these little patches, little patch notes. I mean, I guess most sandbox games are like that, but in the case of this game, it's like they'll add an item or two, or they'll do something, kind of like the Deer Clops was added later in 1.4. Another good weapon is the Thorn Chakram. I myself use this a bit too much. You'd know from my earlier videos, you can see for yourself. It has a very fast speed and can easily destroy your enemies, so I'd give it a try. It's really freaking fast. Most of the jungle weapons and armor require the same recipes of jungle spores, which are glowy and noticeable. They're like a stop sign. They're just right in front of you. You can definitely see them. The stinger, which are too hard to get, and jungle vines used for crafting the jungle armor. There's several other interesting weapons you can obtain using these same ingredients. Not to mention, as the name suggests, the Thorns potion will be useful as well if you want enemies to have a taste of their own medicine in combat, because the enemies in this game are like mosquitoes in the real world. There are several enemies you will encounter in the jungle. Obviously, let's put for safe measures that pre-hard mode enemies will be the first ones that you will encounter in your first experience of the game. The jungle slime is one of the many slimes that in its specific class is biome themed, as there are other biome/element themed ones for other biomes. Same with the bats, you will come across the jungle bats. To note from the wiki, jungle bats and jungle slimes are amongst the few enemies that do not require the jungle grass blocks to be able to spawn, but rather only require the player to be in the range of a jungle biome. The piranha is a water enemy that only spawns in the jungle and underground jungle. They will swim left to right or right to left until hitting a wall and flipping their direction. It's not what they do in the real world. You're gonna get a concussion from that, so don't do it. A piranha, in case you didn't already know, is a number of several freshwater species of fish that exist in the real world. Piranhas are banned from being pets in parts of the United States, specifically the South, due to them being actually pretty dangerous and having special needs that can make them more difficult to take care of. I used to have pet fish, and just fish in general, aquariums, all that stuff. It was freshwater, of course, but pretty hard to take care of. And when you have a fish that's, more required work, it's even worse. But, if you like animals, that's fine. Go for it. I ain't telling you what to do. They usually feed in large groups in the wild to kill larger prey. They usually eat small insects, plants, and other fish, but on occasion have actually eaten flesh off of humans and killed people as a result. This is why there's a controversy about owning this kind of fish to begin with. A snatcher is not a real creature, however, it is inspired mostly off of the Venus flytrap, which does exist in the real world, and is a rather bizarre plant, being of the kingdom Plantae but also carnivorous like an animal. Well, actually there are many carnivorous plants that exist, however the Venus flytrap are pretty unique in the way that they behave. Being able to move to the visible eye is relatively rare amongst plant species, although it isn't the only plant with this characteristic. Some critters you will find are the frog, gold frog, not the species gold frog, but frog literally made of gold, although these frogs can be sold for 10 gold, so be careful when handling them because like most harmless creatures in the game, it only has 5 maximum life. The mystic frog is a strange looking creature unlike most critters. It cannot be caught with a net. However, if you attempt to catch this mystic frog with a bug net, it will be teleported to a random nearby area. If there is no valid teleportation of the net for the destination, it will appear and puff into smoke. But your chance is small to find them, only being a 1 in 30 chance overall, which is approximately 3%. Then there are grubbies, sluggies, buggies, all these bugs with weird names. These are bug variants that can spawn in the jungle and underground jungle. They're not real bugs, but The jungle turtle is like the tortoise if it wasn't a dick. It spawns near bodies of water on the jungle surface, yada yada yada. Everything I mentioned was soft, okay? Oh, but once you get into hard mode, the jungle offers some of the worst enemies. Speaking of which, there is another version of the turtle that's not jungle themed as well. Now let's talk about hard mode. Ew. The derplings are a hard mode enemy that deals 80 damage just on regular difficulty. I couldn't find any source of how high these things can jump, but they can jump over double the height of the player at least, which means that they can at least jump over 12 blocks in height because the player can jump 6 blocks. So that's pretty insane for most enemies in the game, which don't have that high of a jump height unless they're flying enemies, but that's different. There are also some birds as well that exist in this game that exist in the real world as well. Cockatiels are from Australia, not the jungle like the Amazon. Macaws, on the other hand, are native to Mexico's rainforests and the Amazon in Brazil. Toucans are from similar regions as macaws, but also Argentina. Just interesting data, but you can see most of what I talk about for yourself. There's Wikipedia pages about it. It's cool that they took real species of obscure animals and put them into it rather than making up creatures themselves. The giant flying fox is also a hard mode enemy that only spawns on the surface of the jungle biome at night. It is the counterpart of derplings, which only spawn at day. For some reason they are green because they're not actually green in real life. They do exist in the real world, but are actually a species of bat, not fox. They also go by the name which you've probably heard, fruit bats, which are actually the largest bats in the world. So in this game, they actually are the largest bats, but also in the real world. However, in real life, fruit bats do not actually attack humans, so that's a little weird. Okay, now let's mention the water enemies of hard mode. In fact, there are only two. The first being the anglerfish. If we look up a definition, the angler, speaking of the NPC, pretty much just means a person that fishes with a fishing rod. So essentially a fisher, or someone that fishes for sport, yada yada, or to catch fish for survival. Because of the feature of the anglerfish, if we look at a diagram of the anglerfish, there's a piece or rod called the Elysium, and the Esca, which is the light bulb type part of the fish. A bioluminescent bacteria lives in the Esca, which will cause it to glow like a light. The other hard mode fish enemy is Arapaima. I'm probably going to say that a lot, so I'm going to look it up.
Arapaima.
Okay, they're called Arapaima. Thank you, Google. It is also a large fish that is aggressive to both humans and other Arapaima. They are one of the largest freshwater fish, being able to reach up to 10 feet or 3 meters in length. They are a very good fish, however, for hunting and supply of large quantities of food in the real world. Salts will preserve them and prevent the meat from decaying. In the Amazon, they were an important source of protein for the people that resided in the Amazon lakes and streams in historical times. The Angry Trapper is the strongest version of the Snatcher and Man-Eater. If you've noticed, the Man-Eater spawns only underground while the Snatcher spawns above ground with very slight variation in their appearance. However, the Man-Eater is slightly stronger. You will come across many of the Angry Trappers in hard mode. They have a chance of dropping the Uzi gun, a very fast gun I used a lot to fight the mechanical bosses with Chlorophyte bullets, the Angry Trapper kite on windy days, and coffee, I guess. This game likes to drop random food. No crafting required. Now moving on to the unique hard mode ore that can only be found in the jungle. It is the strongest naturally found ore in the game that isn't a substance or found by defeating a boss. So luminite doesn't count in this sense because you can't find it naturally. After defeating the wall of flesh, mud blocks located near jungle grass blocks, almost always only in the underground jungle, will have a chance of being converted into chlorophyte ore. Because of how strong the substance is, it will need a drill or pickaxe power of 200% and will require a pickaxe axe or a drax or higher, so the pickaxe or the drill variation, which do the same percentage. The ore of chlorophyte is fictional, same with a lot of other ores in this game. However, it is inspired off of the real natural compound present in green plants and plant matter called chlorophyll. This is why they're green. In the real world, chlorophyll purpose is used for photosynthesis. These green plants, most green plants, store energy with chlorophyll from the sun and synthesize minerals and water in order into turning it into chemical energy. So that's why the sun is really important. This allows the plant to grow. In the game, however, chlorophyte is used to make a variety of endgame weapons and armor. Almost endgame, not quite. I never understood, however, why the chlorophyte pickaxe had the same pickaxe power as the pickaxe axe and drax. They could have maybe made it, I don't know, 205% maybe, but there's also not really more ores to mine afterwards. So I guess they would have to add one afterwards that would continue it. But who knows? Who knows the future? 1.5 confirmed, I don't know. So it wouldn't make sense why it would be 200% in that case, to me anyways. The best thing I guess for this pickaxe is either being a spare or put into a collection with all your other pickaxes that you're going to get and other tools, weapons, etc. For the swords, you can craft 2 of them. Chlorophyte Saber is a very fast weapon and shoots green spores at the enemy, being able to poison them with the toxic gas, while the Chlorophyte Claymore, as its name suggests, is a long and large sword with slower speed but doing considerable damage, and shooting green orb as a projectile is useful in that it can also be converted into chlorophyte, as I've said many times, can be converted into 2 other types of bars. The Spectre bar is made for the Spectre armor, a Power Mage class set, or it can be turned into Shroomite with the Auto Hammer. A faster ranged set of armor, but honestly requires a lot of work in order to get. But there's other options as well. Kill enough tortoises and you will craft the Turtle armor. While it makes you fittingly slow, you are also much stronger and have a bulky boost in your amount of defense. Then, by defeating the golem, you will also obtain 4 to 8 pieces of them on average. Collect enough and you will be able to craft the beetle armor with one of the highest amount of defense in the whole game. Now, speaking of the golem, let's mention the jungle temple. And this goes into the final part of this video. This structure has similarities to the underground dungeon. It is a labyrinth-like and booby-trapped with hordes of strong enemies. The traps include flames, spears, spiky balls, and super dart traps. It also has its own items and furniture just like the dungeon as well. It is also known as the Lizard Temple because lizard-like creatures live inside of the temple. They can either be standing up or crawling on all fours, which makes them much faster. However, they have less jump height than other enemies as a result. The temple itself is most likely inspired off of the Central and South American cultures that existed and still exist today. Their ancestry such as the Aztecs, Incans, and Mayans, who built very large pyramid structures. Not in the same way as the Egyptians though. They're a lot more blocky, I guess. Well, I guess bricks are blocky, but you see for yourself. And had rich cultures as well. Not rich as in rich, but like very interesting cultures, very deep culture. In mythology, a golem is created from lifeless elements such as stone, sand, or dust that is brought to life through rituals or magic. In the case of Terraria's golem, I can definitely see the inspiration of these different cultures mixed together. However, in the game, what I found interesting is the golem has actually more characteristics to a robot than an actual stone creature. We have evidence of this because of it detaching its chain fists and later on in the fight detaching its head from his body, revealing ancient but advanced technology. In the lizard power cell being like a remote control or ancient battery that activates the golem when you go to the altar. Once defeating the golem, you can now start the Martian Madness event, which I don't think is coincidental to the game's progression, and here's why. In the real world, there are conspiracies, yes, about aliens helping our ancestors, or maybe they're future humans, who knows. Such as the Aztecs and Egyptians would have been helped by these aliens or future humans in advancing our timeline of the human race. So these aliens could have either built or taught the lizard people to create complex structures or were shown these components of knowledge. The design also of the lizards remind me of the Doctor Who episode Cold Blood, in which an excavation mining site discovers a race of beings called the Solarians. These beings existed long before the human race did, but still live deep underground in their own society, which I can definitely see parallels to in the Terraria game, and I can definitely see even like in the design and stuff as well. Anyways, to sum up most of the detail I've talked about, the jungle biome has a biome inside of the biome and is one of the most complex aspects of the game. Obviously, look at it. Which, you know what, it works well, both being a part of the important part of the game progression and pre-hard mode and hard mode, so it's a double whammy. Go back to it more than once. With the 1.4 update, Terraria made some evening out of stuff for each biomes of the game. Before 1.3, however, the game had some imbalances, like there wasn't much content for the desert. It didn't have all the stuff it had, but strangely enough, the desert still has no bosses. I don't know why. There's one boss that was recently added to the game for the tundra called the Deerclops. Overall, though, I think the jungle is a really good challenge. It's challenging, it's dangerous, it's a scary place to be. You gotta be prepared and know what you're doing in it, but it has rewarding aspects to it, like the life fruit, super helpful for later on, and jungle chests that can help out the player in major ways. But besides that is it for this video. Just to let everyone know, by the way, I have a Discord server with a link in the description. I made it easy for you. Let me know also what you guys think down below of the Terraria biome, or this jungle biome specifically, and if there's aspects about it that you like or dislike. I'll make sure to respond to recommendations or questions, or just if anyone needs anything, I will get back to you within 24 hours. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like. Definitely helps YouTube recommend this to more people. Or dislike if you dislike. It's still feedback, and that's the important thing. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed, and that everyone watching this, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. See you all in the next video. See ya.